Congratulate them. But with me to go into details on this matter, from my immediate left is Richard Koshiga, who is an honorable member of Parliament for Keita.
Keita.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And then my own brother Atiq Mohammed, policy analyst, PNC member, here to, I'm sure, butcher the NDC, punch holes in everything that he did wrong. But let's see. But I'll start with you, Richard. Because I think it went well. What's your...
Yeah, it didn't just go well. It went very well. And it was not surprising because over time the NDC as a political party has really grown, developed within the streams that we expect it to grow and develop. And indeed, if you're talking about democracy, the NDC as a political party exudes more with that than any other party in this country and probably beyond federal field in the West African sub-region, and probably one of the best democracies being practiced by a political party in Africa. So it was not surprising. We expected that it would go well, and God being so good, we had good weather, and all the things that we put in place went smoothly. We demonstrated capacity to tolerate one another in spite of the earlier very boisterous and vigorous campaigns by the various contestants. At the end of the day, we did proved that we are indeed not just a fledgling democracy which embodies the whole of Ghana, but we are indeed a full-fledged democratic party, a party that believes in the tenets of democracy, and that over the period has exhibited enviable records of what a true African democratic process and entity can be.
Now, on the aspect of the organization going well.
Let me first say good evening to our cherished viewers. And let me also add my voice to yours congratulating the NDC for a fairly successful Congress, even though
Fairly?
Yeah, it was fairly successful. And I'll explain why now.
Okay.
Contrary to expectations that it would end up like it did in Koforidua, where people's conveniences were held to ransom, people's even personal freedom had been placed in abeyance and all that. But they were able to defy that to some extent. They were able to put some things together. People were free to do whatever they wanted. Free used advisedly. One would expect that in a competitive contest like the one they were supposed to have, everything would have been free, fair, and everybody would have had equal access to whatever facilities.
To the fact that somebody was not free?
I'm sure we'll discuss it as we go. But the point I just generally want to make is that, I mean, let's not paint the picture that it was all rosy throughout. I remember seeing footage of people attempting to show some muscle power at some point during the Congress. But that's why I said it was fairly successful. Those are isolated cases. You can't take that to completely black paint the outcome of the entire exercise. And I think that to some extent, being able to defy the reasonable expectations that people had that it may end in some trouble, I think it is something worth commending. They have actually shown that over time, they are beginning to shed off these trappings of being a party founded on violence, and for that reason, at every turn, they try to show some of these trappings. I think they've evolved over a period, and we are seeing them shedding off those trappings at a very fast pace, and that is why I say it is commendable. But let's not kid ourselves into thinking, and let me specifically say, let the NDC not kid itself into thinking that they have fully evolved. No, because I'm sure as the discussion progresses, you would get to know where and how, the NDC as a party hasn't fully evolved. There is still a great room for them to improve as far as embracing democracy in the real sense of the word is concerned.
I'm told that accreditation was a bit of a challenge. I don't know if you...
Yeah, of course, that's true. The accreditation was a bit of a challenge, and with time, got over that. But moving on quickly to some of the things that my friend Atik raised, it's not surprising that Atik will say the kinds of things that he's saying. It's only somebody who probably had put on a double mask who would not have seen, you know, the excellent organization and you know, the way things were done in a very decorous, peaceful, and very, very exciting manner. Now, talking about pockets of aggressiveness or things of that nature, I don't know what my good friend wants to really put across. Well, let's be honest to ourselves and let's abide in the truth. I'm sure that if there were any pockets of such, the media would have picked them up, you know, and I don't know exactly what he was driving at. If you were a bit specific, you know, it would have been very refreshing. You know, they would have been informing our viewers out there. But if you just put out a blanket statement, there were pockets of, you know, things that you cannot substantiate. For me, I find that worrying. And I would want to, in all sincerity, appeal that we look at issues in their right perspectives, and we should not, as it were, to use Goebbels' black propaganda definition, you know, try to repeat stupendous lies with zeal over time, with the hope that they will gain credibility. Yes, if there were some hitches, we could talk about the accreditation thing that you mentioned. We also must understand that we are humans, and we cannot have a perfect situation. If anything goes so perfect, you must be God. And so, yes, accreditation. What about that issue that you can refer to as a sticky point? But that was resolved at the close of the day.
Richard, I think one of the moving apart from organization, I think we have to tick the box for you for organization.
Okay.
But leading to the Congress, certain things were said, and even though after the Congress, everybody says, "Oh yeah, we're going to be friends and patch up." I wonder how we'll sit at the table, knowing very well that General Secretary said, "Look, if you vote this guy for me, I'm not going to work with him," and then he comes and says, "Oh, forget about what I said. Now I'll work with you." I mean, how difficult is it moving forward now for the party?
Thank you very much. What we must also understand is that in our politics, especially here in Ghana, we often find our emotions flaring up. We tend to sometimes eject our emotions into some of the things that we say, but you'll be surprised that next moment, same persons that, were very cursed with their words, and probably at each other's throat, you find them dining and whining. And it's not just intra-party situation, even, externally. I mean, NDC and NPP, you'll be amazed. You find us, interacting very well after even very heated debates on radio or on TV, etc. You should not be surprised that Atik and I may probably get at each other in the process when emotions flare up, But we will leave here laughing. And just imagine, myself and Kennedy Japan, we are today very great friends. But sometimes back, we are at each other's throats on radio and etc. I mean, that is the nature and the character of our politics. So it should not be very difficult, for General Mosquito or the General Secretary of the NDC, working with all the people that, in the glare of the Ghanaian public, they may, in quotes, consider, his enemies or strong opponents and etc. I mean, we get over these things very easily. And that was the same thing I told Randy Abbey on the day of Congress. Now look, these sticky points that you see as a point of disunity, are things that will fizzle out very easily after Congress. And that, after Congress, you'll find the NDC solidly as one piece, very united, with one focus, a tenacity of purpose to win 2016. And that is the determination You saw after Congress, I don't know whether the Congress caught General Mosquito or the General Secretary and Kofi Adam patting each other and etc. You know, that is what it is. But one is also very, very much concerned about the pre-election fever, which sometimes drive people into those modes of antagonism, you know, and attacking one another, saying things that ought not to be about your closest opponent or whatever, you know, because at the end of the day, what you do is you provide fodder for your political competitors like Atiq Mohammed, who obviously speaks for the PNC, claims belongs to the PNC, but wears the NPP's hat. You know, you provide.
Even struggling to put it. You continue with
you know, you provide fodder for him to chew on, and that is what is very much unpalatable about it, which gives a lot of us concern. But it's a header that will cross over.
Let me get Atiq to respond to that. I mean, how easy to, I mean, you're also in politics, how easy is it to swallow so well? He said that in the past, now we are friends, let's just move on. Because I found it very strong and direct. That, look, I don't want to work with these guys. They're always going to be on radio. You know, they're never going to be here. You know, if you want anybody who's serious, don't vote these guys. And then these are the guys that they voted overwhelmingly.
You know, he made a passing comment, so I would ignore and pretend I didn't even hear that. But because by responding to it, I'll be glorifying that comment. But you see, Richard and co want us to believe that, oh, what Asare Nketia said was said without seriousness. He didn't say it in sincerity. Look, there are questions of credibility here. If Asare Nketia is now turning around to tell us that, oh, don't take what I said seriously, it means he's going to suffer credibility crisis. It means that whatever he says cannot be valued. Whatever he says cannot be taken seriously, because the day after he might come back and say, oh, don't take what I said previously seriously. And that for me is very telling, that if you have a general secretary who can say things with all the passion he could command, and after events have unfolded, he comes back to say, ignore all that I said. It is just like saying that a general secretary asking, for want of a better example, his followers to embark on a very unspeakable exercise, and thereafter comes back to say, oh, I didn't mean what I said, even though damage has been done. Forgive the comments I made yesterday, the instigations I set my people to ignore them because I didn't mean what I said. Is that how they are attempting to reduce the politics of this country to? That people's words no longer make sense. They are no longer honorable words when they utter them. I do not think that that indeed is the situation. And let them tickle themselves and think it is funny that Asare Nketia only said that because they were in the heat of the contest and anybody at all could say anything. Why? When Nanado metaphorically used the phrase, all die be die, people rationalized it, found a definition or interpretation for it, ran to the market with it, and at the end of the day, I mean, in all conscience, it cost Nanado some votes. Now they are saying that even though he said that metaphorically, somebody who was very categorical, we should ignore that which he said and now begin to give it a new interpretation, that in politics, people say things when they are overwhelmed or underwhelmed by political pressure and so on, so they tend to say things. Asare Nketia, as we all know him, is not somebody who just speaks out of the blue. Before he speaks, he would have thought about the content and the possible outcome of whatever he's going to say. He meant what he said. And as for this posing for pictures on the podium, it is something everybody does. I contested an election. I won. I was bitter. But I placed a call to my opponent who won, even though I felt things didn't go the way they ought to have gone. But that is the beauty of democracy, because you are looking at the future. If you don't do that today, you are dealing with electors, you are dealing with delegates, you are dealing with a party. They might punish you in future for an action you commit today, or for a gesture you exhibit today.
How would they work together? How easy is it to patch? I mean, they're politicians.
Look, Nana, face it. This contest they've just gone through is going to produce similar, if not the same results as those that the NPP produced post-2007. Crevices have been created in the NDC. And you see, as political analysts and observers, everybody who cares to know really knows that this contest was a fight between pro-Mills faction and pro-Mahama. And now it is very obvious that the pro-Mills faction had been somewhat defeated. And you don't expect somebody who has been defeated on very unfair grounds, and I'm using unfair advisedly, because a lot of them feel that there had been introduction of money into the whole game, and some feel that they did not lose honorably. Mm-hmm. If I lose dishonorably, or if I lose on grounds other than on merit, I am going to harbor bitter feeling. And especially if you consider the tension, the pressure.
It's very difficult for any African to lose.
No, hold on.
Every African who loses has got some reason why he lost.
No, in some situations,
because somebody paid money, somebody was unfair.
No, in some situations, we that's why I said, as analysts and as observers, we know when people are exaggerating the causes of their defeat. We know, but when indeed things have happened, and we are not the only persons. The media reported some of the sharings that went on, some of the goodies that had been thrown about, and all that. And so, if you become a victim of such a situation, obviously, you pretend before the cameras that, oh, all is well. But within you, you are not. And look, let's face it, politicians always have a way of proving a point. Sometimes their means of doing so could be wrong. By making sure you fail so that they see that he was a better choice and so on. These are things that happen. They will not tell anybody this is my intention. But for me, I would be very happy that NDC pretends about the existence of such a serious problem, and think that, oh, all is well because they were seen taking pictures together, that solves the problem. Because if Asare Nketia could go as far as saying that if you elect a team which in his estimation is useless, you should not count his full commitment. He might be smiling with Kofi Adams. And like I said, let's do pragmatic and sincere discussion. If somebody says that Asare Nketia, merely because he was patting Kofi on the back or smiling to the cameras, means that he's all good with Kofi, there is no problem, and that he's going to work wholeheartedly with Kofi, you'll be tickling yourself at the wrong side and thinking that it is feeling good.
I'm sure Richard wants to come.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you so much. I know very well that my friend Atik would so much wish that a deep crack in the NDC persists. You know, that obviously is his wish, and so he'll want to speak justifying some of those things as if he knows these very people very well. To talk about pretense, you know, I don't know if indeed he knows Asare Nketia so well to conclude that he was pretending and all that. Now, he also touched on, he said that as for pictures, people could post for pictures, and that when he lost elections during the PNC contest, you know, he called his opponent to whom he lost to, and congratulated him. And from what he painted, it means he didn't do it sincerely. But that does not mean that if you were not sincere and you are still very bitter that you lost elections, of course you were a bad loser. Does not mean necessarily that others are like you. So you cannot say that they were not sincere. It's most unfortunate. And again, it exposes your own character as one who loses, who is a bad loser. Now, he struggled very hard to create the impression that the elections that we held recently were fought along pro-Mills, the late, and President John Mahama's factions. I mean, I don't know where he's coming from with that theory. You know, and I know that opponents of the NDC will struggle very hard to create a certain mindset out there that there is, you know, a crack in the NDC along, you know, personality lines.
Richard, let me come in here.
But that does not exist, honestly.
You're a seasoned politician.
Sure, yes.
I mean, even in the MPP, you know, there's this assumption that there's the Nanado camp and then there's the Kufuor camp. And it does in the MPP. I mean, it's like every political party, there are some characters who are big in nature, and for that matter, have people within the same party that follow them. I mean, I don't think it's exclusive to you or something that you have to accept or deny. I mean, I think it's just natural.
Thank you, Nana. And I'm excited about your use of the word assumption. You know, so you assume. Assumption and reality are not same. Just like, you know, we talk about perceptions. You know.
No, but you're a seasoned politician. Are you saying that within parties there are no functions?
Of course, there will definitely be points of divergence in thoughts, you know, and you
style of leadership,
and etc. When somebody thinks that this is the way to go, another may think that this is the process to the end, you know, and so that would naturally exist. And you may have people who share in your views. The NDC is a Congress. What it therefore means is that it's an amalgamation of people with divergent views and opinions. So we may have different points of views, but that does not necessarily mean that we have factions. We in the NDC, you know, believe that we have divergent opinions and views, but we are a united political party, you know, irrespective of the views that we hold. So if, for instance, the NPP, they admit that there are factions, you know, along Nanado and Kufo lines and whatever, we in the NDC don't believe that. It can only be a perception out there, you know, and perceptions are not realities. You know, the reason for which in 2008, we won elections, people perceived that there were cracks and were divided along.
Coincidentally, when Mahama took the mantle, those who were in the forefront when Mills were there were coincidentally, you know...
Not deliberately, they were kicked out.
No, how many of them?
It couldn't be a coincidence.
Hang on.
Well, I'll get the analyst to help me on that.
No, hang on. Let's analyze it.
Yeah, let me get Atik to help.
No, well, I do not think that Atik will be any fair analyst, and I don't believe in his analysis anyway, because it's always skewed in the wrong direction.
No, you see, the thing is, it's natural in leadership. Anywhere you find a leader, as soon as one leader emerges, they are not going to use their predecessors.
So do you conclude that is a faction?
Whatever word you choose it for, there are groups that support different individuals.
There are groups that support different individuals. Yeah. There are groups that's what I said earlier, that we may have divergent opinions. Now you may have some positions, you believe that this is the way to go, and you have people who share in that position. That doesn't make it a faction, okay? It is only when you have fifth columnists within the fold of the entity, then you can be talking about strong factions, etc. But again, also, if, for instance, President Mahama became president and he decides to make some changes, I mean, clearly, who are the people who were with Mills? Let's do a checklist and see. And let's see the people who are working with President Mahama today. You know, are you talking about the Minister of Finance? He was a deputy minister when Mills was president. Are you talking about Fifi Kwete, who was also a deputy minister? He's a minister of agriculture as of today. There were people who worked with President Mahama, and there was need, as it were, you know, for them to make way for some re-energization, you know, so they bring new people on board. But we are all in the same boat. You know, so you cannot refer to that as he having, you know, some exclusive team that he wants to work with and, you know, relegating all others to the background.
Well, I'm not saying it's exclusive to the NDC. I'm saying that it's something that all political parties have.
Yeah, but we don't refer to those as factions. That does not, I mean, it will not sit within the remit of
divisions or followers. No, let me bring Atik here.
What would that be? Why would that be divisions?
You see, what is the faction in the first place? First and foremost, one precondition for an entity to be called a faction is that it should be made up of a group of people. That is one. And secondly, they should believe in an ideology different. You see, you talk about factions in an entity. If people take entrenched positions, of course, a group, there is an ideology or there is a belief system. A group amongst the group decides to congregate around that belief. And of course, obviously, they get a figurehead to lead that particular group. There is another one that has a different view. And that is what we call factions in the NDC. And you see, because you have a figurehead leading one group that believes in one thing or the other, they tend to do things differently. You are saying, and what he said is actually confirming the point you have made, that President Mahama felt that this group that was working with President Mills, may he so rest in perfect peace, they lacked energy at some point. No, I'm coming.
Don't confuse.
Let me hold on.
He brought some people into
to re-energize, which means at some point there was a decline in energy levels as far as their performance was concerned. That is. I mean, it's simple. Now, this new leader, around whom there is a congregation of a new group, thinks that we need much more energy, which this group is lacking. So, in order to get that energy, I need to sacrifice some old faces. And look, the names we can mention.
I hope you don't distort what I said.
I'm not repeating what you are saying. I'm doing my analysis.
Okay.
At the end of the day, people were sacrificed in the process because, in the estimation of the President Mahama camp and their thinking, they had lost. I wouldn't say lose completely, but they had run out of energy levels requisite for his administration. So they were sacrificed. And those you sacrificed, mind you, they are still loyal to that entity that congregates around President Mills. Some of them have had to actually come out of retirement. When I say retirement, I mean people who have decided to take a back seat, decided to come back to join this race. There is a particular, in fact, the person who won the most votes amongst the vice chairmanship contest is somebody who had decided at some point to take a back seat from active politics. But he realized that the only way we can affect changes within the NDC and to ensure that that which our faction believes in actually comes to light is to become members of the executive. There are people who came,
of a faction?
You see, people came to join the race in order to consolidate the Mills factor. Look, I don't want to even mention names. Koko Anyido, after the death of Mills, was completely out of business. He had to make himself relevant and make the Mills factor relevant in NDC politics by coming to contest.
That is not true.
Is it not true that he had been kicked out? What was his explanation after the death of President Mills?
Who told you that Koko Anyido was doing nothing at all? I mean,
when you said, I didn't say at a personal level he was doing nothing.
No.
What was his designation? Why? An appointment was issued. He was supposed to be taken to the office of the National Security. A correspondence from that office said he had not been made the Deputy National Security Coordinator. Which means, and look, what else do you need? If I am the boss of this institution, somebody is said to be coming here, I write to disclaim that posting. I mean, how else do you expect Ghanaians to believe that it is not true, the man who is lying? At the end of the day, I would say technically, the man had been jobless as in out of government, from the day President Mills died. And you think he just decided out of the blue to come and become Deputy General Secretary?
I think that
he had that opportunity many years ago. When I say jobless, I don't mean at a personal level. I am talking in terms of this administration.
I'm also not talking about personal level.
For example, I mean, there are so many people who had occupied positions in the days of Mills and who had worked with Mills over the period to get him to where he was. And
for some people, is chairman of Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority.
Masa, if you are a chairman of a board, it's different from being a minister. You understand my point? You can't compare. There are some boards that sit only once in a year. Some you go, sometimes you even have to contribute money to pay workers. There is a particular, it is a transport company. People who were elected to go and serve on that board ended up lamenting because they would go to meetings and workers would congregate and say, we've not been paid for 8 months. So there are some boards you had and it is just sheer liability. So, but the point I'm making, let me end on this, Nana. For me, that's why I keep saying, play the ostrich. Pretend that, I said Nketia only said that for the fun of it and that there are no factions. Mahama is not attempting to consolidate an empire he's building. Look, why did people mention names on the platform? Big men you would expect to be impartial. Mention names, their gesticulations, and even what they did on that day actually sent a message. I don't want to say what the president did. With respect to a particular candidate, when he finished speaking, something happened, and it was telling all delegates that, look, this is my favorite. And which delegate would want to defy his president?
You know, these generic statements, obviously are attempts to throw dust into the eyes of the public there, because clearly you send them thinking, But I mean, he should make specific statements. He said names. He should mention the names.
No, it will be unfair to them.
But want to be unfair, but then you don't make those categorical statements.
The position of the organizer. You want me to mention names? I will.
Don't make those categorical. No. But anyway, I have the floor, if you permit me. Now, I think that our Congress went very well. The NDC is very sincere. We are determined in achieving one goal, winning, retaining power in 2016. And we find ourselves in that captive position of working towards that. And we find ourselves very confident and comfortable in winning 2016. And we therefore are united.
Comfortable?
Yeah, we find ourselves comfortable. Yes, we are very comfortable that we're going to win 2016. We are very comfortable. You know why we are very comfortable? We are very comfortable because we know our opponent so well. This is an opponent.
But all the hierarchy within the party has, urged caution that, times are hard and that you need, even though
they don't see the hard times.
If you're talking about times are hard.
Well, the president has said that.
They don't
Rollins has said that.
We do admit that we have challenges. We're facing challenges. The reason for which, the theme of our Congress was overcoming emerging challenges, in achieving the better than agenda for victory 2016.
No, but, the reason why I push you, because you said it was going to be comfortable.
It's going to be comfortable.
Within the challenges, you can still get it comfortable.
No. When they say
within
comfortable,
the
they know what
challenges,
they mean.
you see, within the challenges, Ghana has always faced challenges, economic challenges, so...
But this has been exceptional.
Why is it been exceptional?
Double-digit inflation, the longest period of doomsday.
Who says this is the longest period of doomsday?
We have the...
Do you recall, refresh your memory. When President Kufuor or the NPP was in the coxswain, do you know what we went through? Where people will have to carry television sets from one community to another.
Okay, I'm going to take a break.
And that led to houses burning down because of the use of generators.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll listen
carrying
to
TVs across
and then also we'll find out if indeed Jerry Rawlings was congratulating Kofi Adams before even the vote started. Stage.
After Madame Ekwiadomko, so Okasa, so Obia Jenin Kasabio. I thank her for all the refreshing things she had to say. I thank our brother from the CPP also. But if I had to make a choice, I think I'd stick with Madame Donko. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe we should encourage her to join the NDC, since she said she shares our values. And also go and invite our mother and Nanakunede to come back home. Thank you. I hope she can hear us. I hope she can see us. But there again, can you blame her? It is our own internal weaknesses that can destroy us. No enemy was big enough to destroy us. It is our own treachery, our own weaknesses that can destroy us. The strength of our party is derived from the will of the people. The raw, undiluted free will of the people to decide what they want for their party, their communities, and their country. The strength and trust of the people cannot be taken for granted and should be harnessed and harvested here in the quality and caliber of leaders we elect today. It is evident that the party already feels a charge of renewed energy that should not be allowed to dissipate after this election. This energy has to be tapped and not destroyed by the parochial intentions of just a handful of people. That energy can be maintained if we embrace the truth, that which comes from nature, from within, from the human environment.
Except from the NDC Congress. Now, I'll start with you, Richard, because one thing I find amazing is, I think Rawlings was much harder on the party than Ivan Greenstreet was. But in the aftermath, Ivor Green Street has gotten much more bashing than Rawlings has. You know, I think
what in former President Rawlings' speech did you consider being hard?
He said that party people were getting very selfish, you know, very, very corrupt, and you know, I have the paper. I could have
those were advices, meaningful advices, because in society generally,
I think it was actually.
Yeah, of course, he talked about internal weaknesses. Being the only thing that is stronger, that can actually bring us down than the enemy without.
And he goes on further to say that the
specifically about people within the party and the growth of corruption within the party.
Please. I mean, we all just listened to former President Rawlings, and if you properly and honestly want to situate what he said, you will aptly say those are cautions. Be wary of A, B, C, D, so that those things do not become our nemesis.
No, what he was saying is that the party itself was, you know, not behaving properly.
Well, of course, probably you heard differently. Different from what I heard. Now, you see, of course, we cannot have a perfect situation. As a political party, yes, we have challenges, we have weaknesses. You know, we have things that we need to do right. There are things that you can consider as wrong. And those things ought to be worked on in order for us to be able to move in achieving.
So why can't Ivor Green Street say that?
What did Ivor Green Street say?
Also said that you know, people were not.
There's
feeling
hunger.
The better Ghana.
Put it bluntly.
People were not feeling the better Ghana.
When he comes to describe everybody within the NDC as corruption from high to low, what was he talking about?
I think it was metaphorical. He's just saying
what do you mean by metaphorical?
I don't think he's meaning all the 5 million support base are corrupt.
Some are not even closer to government.
Clearly, those were unacceptable comments, you know, as for fraternal message that you're supposed to deliver. I think that if there is any group of people invited to give fraternal messages, you would have expected even the NPP, you know, to that was the perception that the NPP was going to, you know, as it were, inject a few of those in there. But they demonstrated greater maturity, you know, than what the CPP did. You know, because you can't make a generic statement that people in the party are all corrupt. And when we talk about corruption, whose definition of corruption are we talking about? Especially at the time when Ghana internationally has been rated as having worked tremendously in addressing the challenge of corruption.
Which agency?
Ghanaians are not happy at all. This glory is dry. Too dry.
Well, brave man, you know, I'd say he was a brave man. There's two dimensions which I
call
find
that bravery.
Well, you see, was it a public?
It's interesting your description of bravery.
Can you decide that it was a public gathering? Therefore, I mean, whatever results that came out of that gathering affect a Ghanaian. Therefore, if I'm a Ghanaian, I can come there and share my opinion. Or do you say, no, this is totally private, and therefore I can't voice my opinion? That's where, you know, let me hear you and then I'll come back to you.
Let me first salute Comrade Ivor Green Street for the display of such bravery and courage. Look, which one of us hasn't had occasion to complain about the declining nature of progress in this republic? Who hasn't had the opportunity to lament about the increasing rate of hardships in this country? This pretense about what he said shouldn't have been said and so on, I regard it as sheer and utter hypocrisy. Why? When I almost said when the woman what's her name?
Ekuyadonko.
Ekuyadonko was heaping praises on them. They were all shouting, "Oh yes, continue saying that." Who said that was a platform for praise singing? You see, that is the hypocrisy I'm talking about. On the one hand, you say, look, what Ivor said shouldn't have been said on that platform because he was expected to give solidarity message. When Ekuyadonko was heaping praises on almost everybody, you did not say that was the wrong platform and that she was supposed to give solidarity message. Or their interpretation of solidarity means come and praise us, but do not criticize us. And more so, when there was this case, the litigation that was ongoing in the Supreme Court, the NDC said that the government and NDC were very much intertwined and that you could not price them apart. So that was why they decided to join the case. In the same manner, if there is a platform such as that which we had in Kumasi, where the president was in attendance, a lot of his ministers were there, and these are the people who take decisions of policy to affect your life and affect mine. But
this was their private affair.
Hold on. Look, activities of political parties are not private affairs. That is why political parties are no longer seen. In fact, the political parties law does not regard political parties as private entities. They are seen as public institutions. That is why are we craving for the introduction and passage of the funding of political parties bill. It is because we no longer regard what political parties do as private. What NDC does affects your life, affects my life. And that is why we keep saying that, look, if there is trouble in NDC, it is not limited to only people in the NDC. It affects everyone.
Let me get Richard to respond.
Thank you very much.
I think the story is something that we need to...
Even Grace Street coming to say what he said at our Congress, well, he left the place very peacefully, in one piece. That, again, is a demonstration of how far the NDC had come as a political party, a democratic political party. I'm sure if he had said this, what he said, at some other political parties' Congress, definitely, if we're not talking of a funeral, we're probably talking about somebody else.
Should that gathering be classified as a private gathering?
No, it wasn't a private gathering. That's why he was also invited. But you see, Nana, let's look at it from this perspective. Oh, I am bold. I'm brave. I come on your program and I start telling you, Nana, you know, all kinds of unpalatable things. Things that are untrue about you. Oh. You are arrogant. You are this. You are that. I mean, how would you feel? You wouldn't say that.
It's not in this government.
You wouldn't say that, well, it's free speech. Free speech. So Richard can come and say all the untruths about me and then leave.
No, ask him. Is it untrue that there are no hardships in this country? I mean, there are hardships in this country.
You would have taken me offset. Richard, the fact is that the kinds of things that our brother said on that occasion largely, were untrue, and to a large extent, you actually tried to...
Are you sure?
Now, what says that it depends on the way you look at it. Better
now
Ghana, we are saying that the things that he said are not reflective of what is happening in Ghana. Because at least when you look at the health sector, there's a lot of development. Yes, we say there are challenges. We do agree there are challenges.
Can't pay hospitals. What is the development?
Please,
what is the progress?
Can you be decorous enough to allow me to speak?
Oh, you speak. I think that you've spoken more on this issue.
When you look at the road sector, the kinds of things that we are doing at Kaswa, Kwame Nkrumah Circle and all that, an aggregation of all this, will demonstrate to the Ghanaian why we still say it's a better Ghana. You see, in the era of the late President Mills, may his soul rest in peace, we were so criticized and bastardized. But after his demise, when the ordinary Ghanaian decided to be honest and truthful and sincere, and they poured out their hearts as to the kind of developments that have touched their various communities and their lives, it was then that Ghanaians realized that, the late Mills, during that 3.5 years of rulership, had done so much. When our friends on the other side decided not to be at the usual partisan politics.
Mills's praise was in his personality, though, and not
Yes,
his
not
work.
his achievements.
Not his achievement.
No,
it was on his
It can
personality.
only be a stranger in Jerusalem
I
to
think
say
I
this.
deserve a bite
Because
at this before
clearly,
this program comes to
when
an end.
after the demise of President Mills, we saw the various media houses, even your own media house, taking the microphones to the ordinary Ghanaian in the various communities,
And they laughed
they
him
talked about
personally.
they talked about the developments that had come, the schools that were built, the health facilities that have gotten to their doorsteps, the pipe-borne water that had gone to some communities, hitherto which were not there.
So those
we saw all these
things. Those who
and
are
I'm saying that
complaining,
it is because of the politics. It's the politics that has beclouded everything, such that people are trying to create the impression that there is no better Ghana, to the point that people have believed the lie, which is very Goebbelsistic. Goebbelsistic in the sense that Goebbels believed that a stupendous lie repeated with zeal over time gains credibility. And this is the kind of enterprise some of our friends have found themselves in just because they're looking for power. Power at all costs. Now look at this. Before you take me off, Nana.
We don't have much time left.
Just yesterday, 8 trucks, how they call it, containers of prepaid meters taken to the Ashanti region, in addition to 5 containers already there at the warehouse in Ejusu, got bent. How come? You see, that is another story to talk about.
Nana. You see, when people are underperforming, when I say underperforming, it's even a glorification. When people are simply not performing, they tend to hide behind conspiracy theories. This issue about, and I'm sure he had something to say in respect of how they got bent and so on. If people can't even have access to electricity, what is the use of prepaid meters?
And who says people don't have access to electricity?
I don't.
Well.
So what is the use in giving me meters that can't bring me light anyway? But you see, the point, he has sat here and he has said that there is better Ghana. And that what Comrade Ivor said were untruths. I was trying to ask him, just tell me one of those things he said which is untrue. Is it not true that there are hardships in this country? Is it not true that there is corruption in this administration? Is it not true that this Christmas season, usually even the weakest and the most unperforming of governments, when it gets to Christmas, at least there is some relief. People are able to afford some things they can enjoy within that festive period and return to their usual hardship thereafter. But with this administration, common Christmas we can't even enjoy. He has said these things, and what is untrue about all that he has said? And I've heard he said he left there in one piece. What is worse than people attacking something you do not invite upon yourself? Look, and with all due respect to people living with disabilities, disability is not anything anybody cherishes. It is not something anybody who is a victim of glorifies. Oh, please. You have people who we have used our taxes to pay, people that the president has elected to spend our taxes for free, have decided that they will bastardize him, they will insult him. And what did they say? That the only way he can see the better Ghana, which is non-existent, is for him to be elevated.
Semantics.
Could that be metaphorical?
Meaning, how do you explain this metaphor?
He's talking of elevation of the mind.
That's even worse. Please. When you were speaking, I listened to all the things you said.
About disability.
Please. Let's see if my producer will give me more time for this show.
Let me end on this.
Run out.
You see, when you even bring it to the point about mind, between the person who uttered those words and Green Street, who has a more capable mind?
Well, on that note,
you see, and the president himself did not spare him. But you can.
I said you can.
And some George can.
Well,
the president himself did not spare him. He said it's myopic.
Time has come to an end.
This is the kind of administration we have. They don't
have some time more to find out from Richard.
They start insulting.
Yes, indeed, there are lots of development going on in the country, but somehow it's always shrouded in secrecy, or we are not told of it as much. And maybe we need to find a platform so that we talk about those things.
Do you eat kaswa interchange?
But tomorrow we're back to do it all over again.
I wish
guys,
we had
thank
more
you very
time,
much.
Seriously.
Yes.
Please,
you are not the chorus at all.